let's jump right in and take you through some of the dailies here this morning. Look at Nigerian Tribune. They're following up from what has been going on, what transpired yesterday, the visit of the Vice President to Kaduna. And so they lead with Kaduna drone strike. The guilty will be punished, Tinubu vows. Says Tudumbiri community to be rebuilt on the Fulako initiative. DHQ statement unnecessary, ACF says. So you need to go there and see which of the statements now of the military is the ACF referring to. So that's what's going on now. So yeah, I mean, several other scenarios here. NJC recommends retirement of Osun High Court judge, declines Adeleke's 11 requests on CJ, sets a panel to probe judicial officers. So is it about time? Judicial reforms, who's going to do it? Will they happen? I guess all of that out there. That's Tribune this morning.
The Guardian's the next one, and they have something else they're leading with. Female genital mutilation, government dithers as painful initiation to womanhood flourishes. And then you see the graphics on the front page there with some statistics that are quite alarming. And hopefully something will be done. But let me just, because on only 13 states have laws that expressly prohibit FGM. But that's what the Guardian's leading with. And besides that, you have, towards the festive season, one-way local flight tickets hit 200,000 naira ahead of festive travels. So might begin to think of how other ways to celebrate Christmas with the family. And then this sad one, 10 Lafayette University students kidnapped by gunmen again. What's up with Lafayette? Well, let's leave it there for the Guardian.
And turn next to Daily Independent this morning. But, you know, Nyota, I can't resist the urge to comment on that big story on the front page of the Guardian newspaper, which also says that only 13 states have laws that expressly prohibit female genital mutilation. You know, and spouses of governors have been meeting in recent times, and they have called for the domestication of the Violence Against Persons and Prohibitions, Act in all states of the Federation, such that, you know, these practices, harmful traditional practices, can be a thing of the past. And we need more education in that regard, particularly amid the 16 days of activism on sexual and gender-based violence. Up next now is Daily Independent, and it continues to look at the situation in Igabi local government following that accidental airstrike. Listen to this one. Army, Kaduna, airstrike on civilians. Northern groups finger lack of coordination by the military. Call for independent investigation over killing of 120 villagers. The death toll is up, by the way. The second rider, protesters storm NAS, ask Defense Minister Badaru to resign. PDP demands thorough investigation, compensation. If you're interested, you find all of these on page 29 inside Daily Independent. And there's this one at the bottom strip, which is just as concerning. Expatriates steal jobs meant for Nigerians, NAS alleges, says foreign prisoners working in Nigeria's construction companies. Foreign prisoners working in Nigeria's construction companies. By the way, it emerged yesterday during budget defense that there's more budgeted to feed the dogs in the correctional service than to feed the inmates. What cannot happen in Nigeria does not exist.
Oh, well,
it
does exist, actually. It does exist. The Vanguard newspaper this morning has this on its lead, as its lead story, and it's still about the Kaduna era. We'll be 100% sure before bombing targets. That's according to DHQ. Says 81 killed, 70 injured in mishap. Adds it's unpatriotic to ethnicize disaster. Equip military with more accurate surveillance technology, can urges FG. Ohaneze condemns act, seeks thorough investigation. US urges use of AI to reduce accidental bombings. Culprits must be punished, according to the president. ACF calls for redeployment of GOC 1 division and others. Sanction culprits compensate victims. CSO, Islamic Forum tell FG DSS COAS. Army solicits more funding. All of that you'll find on pages 5 and 2 this morning. Several other stories on the front page, but just before we exit the paper, Mr. and Mrs. is talking about something interesting this morning. And you may want to take a look at it. It's talking about a man who knows his onions. And how does the paper put it this morning? Look at it. Very interesting. So the missus is out of shot. Honey, please get me some onions on your way back. And Mr. asks, and what does that make me? And Mr. Mrs. responds, a man who knows his onions. Chamberlain, do you know your onions?
Sorry, I don't take onions. Look at New Telegraph this morning. New Telegraph is in this story here today. NCS, sorry to disappoint you. NCS spends more money to feed dogs than inmates, ascribed to CG. Whoa, okay. There's a direct quote, by the way. How can you look us eye to eye and tell us you feed a grown man in Nigeria with 750 naira each day, and you feed each of the dogs under your care with 800 naira a day? Wow. Okay. Food for thought. Maybe you can add onions to it too, if you do. So, so definitely, having brought this up, you don't expect it to continue this way. So, if you're alarmed about it, National Assembly, then they should do something about it. So that's what we expect. But one other thing that needs us as a country and the leadership of the country to do something about is this next story. P&G's exit. Man, LCCI predict doomsday for Nigeria. Says economy lacks buffers to withstand exodus. So you can imagine how many jobs we're losing if the president is, chief marketing officer for the country, granted. But asking companies to come in, and then you see this narrative out there, you definitely know that people will think, okay, how about this economic team? And they keep saying Nigeria has a very difficult business operating environment. So again, of course, all of that questions about ease of doing business comes to fruition and comes to the fore when these kind of stories are there. So what are we going to do about this? These are the kind of people we should be listening to tell us what is the problem, what do we need to address. Just go look at their book and then adjust the complaints there and watch the figures go up. NJC sacks judge for misconduct, sets up 11 panels to probe others. And many will say, where have they been all this while when there's been a lot of hue and cry for these judgments going back and forth? And by the way, this judge that has been sacked, is it connected to anything? You check.
Definition of misconduct is relative. And maybe we can add onions to it now, since today is about onions and onion day. But I have, I have the Nigerian Observer, and they lead with this one. I mean, it's close to that time of the year. Traders optimistic. Load up Christmas shelves despite economic downturn. Is onions part of what they're loading up?
Life goes on.
Life goes on, indeed. So load up Christmas shelves despite economic downturn. That's what the Observer is leading with. And then that story about the feeding, spending more money on dogs than the inmates is also here on the front page and continues on page 4. But what's interesting is also the picture you see there. I mean, it's a Friday, so we could look a little bit into Nollywood. Talks about marriages in Nollywood that have weathered the storms. So these Nollywood celebrity marriages have weathered the storms of fame. I can't imagine the ease with which they are carrying on, but it's good to know that they can still carry on.
Storms of fame, huh?
Yes, fame comes with its own storms. But that's it from the Nigerian Observer.
And up next is the Daily Trust newspaper this morning, which also trails the Kaduna incident. And here's the big story. Kaduna killings, not a mistake, says Gumi. And there's a host of riders here. Listen to them. Army's attack against Air Force advice sources, against Air Force advice. That's ascribed to sources. Offices grumble over lack of synergy between services. That's an age-long conversation, by the way. There's more. We've learned our lessons. Our operations remain joint. That's coming from the defense headquarters. And the last of the rider says, Tinubu vows to punish anyone found culpable. And we have the inset picture of the front page story of the vice president who visited the victims of the incident at the hospital yesterday, and he made quite a number of promises. Let's look at some stories, just under the nameplate. Excitement as $20 billion Dangote refinery receives crude oil. Nigerians are waiting. Apart from asking where the dollars are, where is the petroleum within Nigeria, not the ones coming from the high sea? And there's this one: gunmen kidnap Nasarawa varsity students. We're still waiting for the return of the ones kidnapped on their way to Sokoto. And lastly, civil defense yet to produce media trust radio tower shields indicted operatives. That's it for the Daily Trust newspaper this morning.
This Nigeria newspaper is also interested in the dog story. And this is the way it puts it. National Assembly kicks against preferential treatment for dogs at correctional centers. 750 naira spent to feed each inmate per day, as against 800 naira for a dog. NCS Controller General: you can't feed innocent convicted Nigerians in your custody with this paltry sum. So what's the point of changing Nigeria Prison Service to Nigeria Correctional Service?
Who's being corrected? That's a good one to reflect on.
Wait, this is per day, 750 naira.
If the ones supposedly in charge of correction are feeding, innocent convicted Nigerians with 750 naira, how can the ones intended to be corrected become corrected?
If you are watching us, please try to imagine what you can do with 250 naira per meal. Just try. A loaf of bread now is at least 1,000 naira. Anyway, I can't even imagine it. At the bottom of the page, I won't be distracted by sponsored protesters. Wike tells traducers. Abuja natives charge IGP to investigate sponsors of protest. Several other stories you'll find on the front page of this Nigerian newspaper today. But that's this Nigerian newspaper and a look at some of the dailies. We're back right after now. The issues are all lined up. Just stay with us.